Hi everybody, today I'm going to teach you how to make one of my family's favorite meals, which is gumbo. That's how they feel about it, really. It's like one of their very favorites. So it's super easy to make.
Hey, you better not be fooling.
I'm not fooling yet, I'm also making a video. One of the things that's kind of weird about gumbo is it calls for 3 different kinds of meats. And so, you're in the video. Do you want to be in the video?
Yeah, this is the first kind of meat.
Okay. Well, don't make my video long. Anyway, it calls for 3 different kinds of meat, so that's the only thing that I feel like is really weird with gumbo, but otherwise the rest of it's really easy. So we're gonna go step by step, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is deal with my meats, and I'm gonna start with my sausage links. So you wanna go to the store and just get a basic, like pork sausage link. This is 12 ounces. They are not flavored like maple or breakfasty. They're just plain traditional. That's what this one says, is traditional. Any kind of breakfast link, but you don't really necessarily want it to be that sweet version. It could be like a spicy Italian version. That would probably work really well. Just not the ones that are flavored like maple syrup. So I actually have my stove on. It's not warm yet. These are starting to cook, and I'm gonna make sure they get cooked all the way through. Along with that, I have chicken. So while my sausage links are frying, I'm gonna chop up my chicken so that it will cook faster. And then I have a raw peeled shrimp, and that I'm just making sure is like defrosted, or however you're purchasing your shrimp. I'm gonna make sure that I have that kind of like defrosting or ready to go. I'm not gonna do anything with the shrimp right now. That's gonna go in at the very end, but I am gonna chop up my chicken. Now, like I said, it is weird that you use 3 different kinds of meats. So you could take away one of these if you feel like that's just a lot. I would say you cannot take away shrimp from gumbo. That's like I think that's a no-no. I don't think it's even legal. And this is way more tasty. The sausage is a lot more tasty in the gumbo than the chicken is. So if I had to get rid of one, I would get rid of the chicken. That would just be my own personal preference though. So let's get the meats cooked up. I'm gonna get the sausage cooked up, and then I'll show you what I do from there. So now I have my sausage cut up into little chunks. I did that while the chicken and onions were cooking, and the chicken and onions are cooked through. The onions are a little bit caramelized. You can do that to your preference. That's totally up to you. But now we're gonna do the most important part of gumbo. So this is kind of the make it or break it for your gumbo. This decides, I mean, like gumbo is the type of soup that really, really needs a lot of depth and like this really strong broth. And if you don't let your roux cook long enough, you will lose that depth out of your gumbo. So in this pan, I have 3/4 of a cup. I know, that's a lot, I know. 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil. The old recipe that I used to use calls for a full cup, and I've cut that down. It used to also call for olive oil, but it gave it like too refined of a taste. I didn't like it. And then I have 1 cup of flour in there. So in the pan, I have 3/4 cup vegetable oil. And if you want to go healthier, you could make it an olive oil, but I think it makes your gumbo taste too fancy. So 3/4 cup vegetable oil and 1 cup of flour, and we're gonna let this cook. And as you can see, it's kind of like frothy and bubbly, stir it together. And when you first start off a roux, you've probably made this before for lots of things like a bechamel sauce, pasta sauces, mac and cheese. This is how you start a lot of like chowders or you know, thicker soups like that. By making a roux, and usually they'll have you either just mix it and then immediately you add your liquids. But when you make gumbo, we're gonna let this go until it is dark brown and starts to smell like popcorn. And that's what's gonna give our gumbo like the really yummy flavor, the depth. So, I mean, I'm stirring it more than you even have to. You can just let it sit, and you could be chopping your vegetables while you're doing, you know, while your roux cooks, just checking in on it every once in a while. But I'm gonna let this go, and then I will show you the color. And maybe let me just get a better, sorry, I have my phone on a tripod. So you can kind of see it's like a pale yellow, sort of looks like a custard. We're gonna let that get nice and dark and brown. So I will come back with you when we get to that point. Okay, so I have turned my heat down to really, really low. I've gotten my roux really dark and caramely brown. See that? And it'll be kind of granularly, that's not a word, granular. And you'll notice you're kind of scraping these darker chunks off the bottom. And it actually doesn't smell like popcorn, it smells like burnt popcorn. That's what it smells like. So we're ready to go to the next step. I would even maybe let that go a little bit darker. If it were me, I would let it go a little bit darker. But for the sake of today, we're going to let it go to that point. Okay, now I've turned my heat down and I make sure I have a really, really deep stock pot, because this next part is a little bit scary, and you don't want to do this with hot roux if you have a shallow pan. So make sure that you are ready to go, because we're gonna add our chicken broth into the roux, and it's gonna pop and it's gonna go crazy. So yeah, you wanna make sure that you're ready for that. And you're gonna notice that your roux starts to go like chunky in your broth, and you're gonna think that you ruined it, and you did not ruin it. Just let it happen, stir it in, add your broth. So I'm actually gonna do 3 of these, which I'm in the middle of a COVID quarantine and I don't have 3. So I'm gonna use 1 box, and then this is the equivalent of, yikes, 2 more. So I'm gonna do at least that many. We will add, we'll add all the other stuff, and then we'll see if we need more broth. So that was water, but I will actually add bouillon. I always keep like chicken bouillon in large quantities in my kitchen because it's something I use so much. So I'm gonna make sure I add the proper amount of bouillon, and then we'll get around to the veggies. So I'm just gonna keep this on low on the stove and let that go. Oh, and you know what else we could add right now is our meats. We have that chicken and onions and our sausage. So I'll add those in and let that go, and then we'll work on the vegetable part. So the next part is the vegetables. Here I have about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, but I left 1 clove that I just wanted to show you. If you didn't know this about garlic cloves, sometimes it's really irritating to get the paper off, but if you'll just pop it a little bit under your knife, that paper will peel right off and come right out. Super, super easy. And then I have this like Joseph garlic rocker, and you just rock it over top of the garlic. And that, I have had a bunch of different kind of garlic presses over the years, and that one right there is my favorite. It's super easy. It comes clean in the dishwasher. It's really fast, and I like scrape that clean, maybe run that under the water a little bit, and then pop it in the dishwasher, and I don't ever have like garlic chunks. So my dishes smell like, you know, garlic. This is another thing that's super cool I just figured out a few years ago. It's like a little stainless steel thing, and if you get garlic hands and wash, you just wash your hands with this under the water. You don't, you could do soap, but you don't need soap. It makes the garlic smell leave your hands. I had never heard of that before. Okay, this is another cool trick. We're gonna put a full bunch of celery, not 1 stalk, we're gonna put a full bunch. And this is how I store celery in my fridge. So I don't use the plastic produce bags at the grocery store, and I wash all my veggies on my grocery shopping day. So I wash my celery and then I wrap it in foil. And not only is the foil recyclable, but it also makes the celery last longer, which is super cool. So this celery is clean and washed, and I have trimmed the top. Last time I bought my celery, and I am gonna do a really rough chop. See that? That one was really big, and I'm gonna go like a full thing of celery. I like a lot of celery in my gumbo, and I might bother with like chopping some of these a little bit smaller, but not really, okay? With that, and then we're gonna add 2 jalapeno peppers, and you could leave these out, like if you are making gumbo for little kids and you want it to be kind of wimpy. But my next question would be, what the heck are you doing making gumbo for little kids? Because it's gonna be spicy no matter what. This is one of my favorite ways. You've had gumbo to it. You've had chili to a baby. Are you nuts? Okay, so then I love to, when I have to do jalapeno peppers, I use the little tomato puller and I just like run that down the center. This is going into my chicken bucket. My chickens can eat my jalapeno seeds, and it'll like pop those seeds. Let me do it on the counter for you. Pops them right out. Boom! You don't even have to touch them with your hands and end up with like burning eyeballs later in the day. So that's another little nifty trick. So I'm gonna chop up this jalapeno, or both of these, and that's gonna be our veggies. Besides the parsley, I think those are the only veggies that go in the gumbo. Okay, so let's get to that point. We got our gumbo with the chicken, the sausage, and the onions inside the chicken broth with the roux. So we're to that stage. It's been simmering on the stove while I chop my veggies. And by the way, and I'm gonna add these veggies. So jalapeno, garlic, and lots of celery. So some people do okra, and I've tried okra, and I don't mind okra. I actually like that vegetable, but it's just hard to find, and I don't want to do like a frozen version because then it's like too soft. And I just feel like the celery, I just do a ton of celery, and that kind of satisfies my okra needs. So I don't do any okra in my gumbo, but I mean, if you want to, you could, by all means. I'm also gonna add 2 cans of just little plain petite diced tomatoes. Those are going in as well. Yeah, see, my pot is like starting to fill up. And I'm cooking this tonight for 7 people. Chances are we will almost bottom out this pan. If we don't tonight at dinner, we definitely will, probably by breakfast tomorrow. My kids always eat it the next day. But I was gonna tell you with gumbo, if you can sneak it and hide it, make it a day in advance, it's even better the next day. The more that the flavors can meld, the better your gumbo is. So now I want this celery and the other veggies to get soft. I want to add in my spices. And this is really like the spice that you use, a Creole seasoning of some sort. We're gonna go up to 1/4 cup of this. I'm not gonna measure. If you wanna measure, you can. I kind of shake and taste and see how it goes. And my family likes it really spicy, so it's, I was just about to say it doesn't have a lot of heat and it's making me choke. So it doesn't have a ton of heat, but it will make it spicier as you go along. So it's up to you how much you want to add, but the recipe, I mean, I usually go about up to 1/4 cup. So this is to taste. Add, taste, and we're gonna let this simmer on the stove. We're gonna get this really going, like almost boiling now, and let that go for quite a while. Like I would say at least 10 or 15 minutes. Next thing we're gonna do while our gumbo is simmering on the stove, getting the celery nice and soft and letting the flavors kind of meld together, is chop up a whole head of parsley. We're gonna leave these stems alone, but otherwise we're gonna come down here and chop up, this is washed, of course. And again, this is kind of like the celery. There's a lot of it, and we're gonna do a pretty rough chop of a full head of parsley. And you would think that this will ruin the dish, like it'll be too strong, and I don't know why, but it's not. Probably because there's so many other really strong flavors in gumbo that parsley is like the least of your worries. So, okay, nice rough chop there. Just kind of making sure we get the really huge bunches. And you can go ahead and add this anytime. I would say the sooner the better. So since you have it already simmering, let's get that in the pot too. Alana, what did you say?
Hi guys.
What do I sound like?
Welcome back to my kitchen.
Miles, do you have anything to say about gumbo?
It's straight up delicious.
And out of like all of your favorite meals, where does it rank?
It's up there.
Top 3?
Probably.
Yes. Awesome. It's kind of a individual thing though. Like it's not a
It's
food
not
for
filling.
everybody, right? Yeah, it is. It's not food for everybody. It's like only certain people. Because I feel like we say we love gumbo so much, and then some people are like, really? And it's like, oh.
Yeah, people who are uncultured don't like it.
Okay, now the gumbo has been simmering, almost boiling. If I let it go, you'll see that I'm really letting it have a nice simmer. It's probably been about 20 minutes. The longer you can let it go, the better it will be. So, I mean, if you have like an hour to set aside to make gumbo, then do it. It's better the longer it goes. But you'll see it's kind of like creamy. I added about a teaspoon of kosher salt to taste. I checked my bouillon, sprinkled just a little bit more of that in. And then here I have my shrimp, and I cut my shrimp up into little bits. Otherwise my kids go on like a shrimp fishing expedition, and then we spend half of our time waiting for people to scoop up shrimp. Yeah, you do. You know you do.
It's Avery.
So I chop mine up into little bits, and it just helps. Hi, Greta. Helps distribute them throughout the soup. That's it. You're gonna make sure your shrimp gets cooked, and we're adding it at the end just because we don't want the shrimp to overcook too much. Although really, it can cook and cook and cook. Like I said, if you have an hour, just let it go. It doesn't. I find the shrimp don't get like really rubbery and awful. So anyway, and you'll see that is a full pot of gumbo we are gonna go try and destroy now at the table. Now I always serve gumbo over rice, so I'm gonna flip my little camera around. While my gumbo was cooking, I made 5 cups of cooked rice. So it was 5 cups uncooked rice. That's how much we'll eat. I don't know about your family, but we're gonna put the gumbo over the rice. So when we serve it, a big old scoop of rice, and then we pour the gumbo over it, and it is what, guys? Like,
Delicious.
yum. Look at them. They're like, stop making a video, feed us. Yeah, let's eat. So this is how you serve it. Scoop however much rice you want. This is my model, Alana, doing it for me. And then spoon your gumbo over your rice. And you don't want to stir your rice into your gumbo and then serve it, because it will suck up all the juice, and then of course it won't be
It's
like
a
good
soup with
leftover.
rice, not rice with soup.
Serve it with the shaker of the Creole seasoning and Tabasco. That's it. Enjoy, everyone.